What's up, everyone? We're back with some more Etheria Restart. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Now, we're going to be getting into my top 10 SSR Animus for progression. It's really important to continue to progress in this game because the more you progress, the better shell companions you can get, the better modules that you can get, and just overall, the better performance you'll see in not only your PvE, but your PvP. Do note that there are some things that are subject to change, and with that, we will be updating these videos in the near future as we push closer to the official release. So stay tuned for that. Now, let's go ahead and let's get right into it. Starting out with number 10, it's really important to note that this is in no particular order. These units I find to all be extremely valuable for various reasons, right? So we're going to go ahead and start off with number 10 being Leon. Now, Leon is definitely going to be an extremely valuable unit for all accounts because she is attached to mission quests. Mission quests are not only going to allow you to further invest and build her up, but they're also going to allow you to further invest in your overall account. Obviously, there's some high value here when we're talking about not only PvE, but PvP. When we start out with the skill 3, this is where everything I would say is kind of like the bread and butter of her kit, the Imperial Scorch. She's able to do some AoE damage as well as action still. So 300% damage to all enemies with an 80% chance to still 30% strike prep from targets. This is going to allow her to be very effective in being able to rotate teams, but working them down immensely. 300% damage is a lot of damage. And then with the fact that she's able to still 30% strike prep, which is basically turn meter gauge, she's going to then have a ton of rotating potential there. Now, this is going to rotate her into her skill 2, which is the Blazing Wings. This is a unique AoE that works as far as being a multi-hit, so it's a 4-hit AoE that will randomly target, and it actually becomes a lot better when there's less targets on the field because then all of those hits will go to, and allocate accordingly between those targets. So if there's only one target on the field, all 4 hits will be hitting that target. Now, this will reduce in damage by 20% for up to 3 hits, but it doesn't matter because this is going to be a great ability to help you finish off someone or finish off an entire party after you just got hit with a 300% damage nuke, right? Then, of course, we have the single target ability here, which is not only going to be dealing damage, but it's also going to be draining life. Now, this will be dealing with a 3-hit of 90 damage to a single enemy and recovering HP equal to 40% of the damage dealt. And then she has a unique ability called Ninefold Flame. For each type of buff Leon has, the damage dealt increases by 6% up to 5 stacks. What that means is that she would need to have like a defense up, an attack up, a speed up buff. It couldn't be like overlapping buffs. They would need to be separate buffs. And with each of those buffs, she then would be able to apply the damage dealt increase up to 5 stacks, right? So overall, this is going to be a great unit for nuking, just helping you rotate teams. This is going to be really nice, especially in PvE content when you're dealing with really hard things. The more enemies are out in the field, the more useful she becomes with being able to rotate teams and just allowing you to have an extra chance to get some more of her skills off for more damage. With that, I will say we are going to be shifting into our number 9 slot, which again, this is in no particular order, but I do want to actually touch on something really quick. There is going to be a banner in the game that's going to be very important to all players when they first start out, and it is the direct summon, right? The directed summon. Now, you are able to pick whatever unit you want that is not a light dark unit, right? And that is something that I would say is going to be a very, very important choice for a lot of players. These next couple of units we're going to be talking about are going to be talking about some of the choices that you would be thinking about for this specific banner, considering that this is one of the first banners that you will be encountering. Our number 9th pick here is actually going to be a unit named Lilith. Now, why exactly is Lilith important? Lilith, in my opinion, is definitely going to be one of the number 1 choices for a lot of players starting out because she offers so much value and utility and she just works, right? Now, tea time is going to be her skill 3. The main gimmick here is the Graceful Mischief. This is an ability that when it explodes, it is removed, dealing indirect damage equal to 30% of Lilith's max HP, and there's also a 100% chance to inflict a stun for 1 turn. So that's absolutely insane for you being able to lock down stuff, because think about it this way: if something doesn't get a turn, then they can't hit you, they can't harm you. Like, it's absolutely just logical, right? So that's just how that kind of goes. Now, as far as the ability itself, when it does hit, it will deal damage equal to 15% of the max HP of all enemies, and then there's a 100% chance for her to inflict the Graceful Mischief on all targets that detonate after 2 turns. She immediately will immediately allow her to gain 1 turn extra. Now, you also have this skill 2, which is the Graceful Finale. This is going to allow her to inflict a speed down as well as being able to detonate the Graceful Mischief if on a main target, and that is then going to set the strike prep, which again is the turn meter gauge of that target, by 100 backwards. So they lose that strike prep. So they lose 100% of it, which means it sets them to 0. Right? So that's actually really insane. So again, you're getting an AoE potential stun, right? That you'll have. You have the speed down, which means they don't rotate as fast. You're pushing a unit all the way back to 0. And then on the S1, you also have the ability to deal some damage based off of max HP. And after the attack, there's a 20% chance that she can gain an extra turn. So this unit is just by far a extremely invaluable unit. I feel like, again, her value was proven not only in PvP, but 100% in PvE. This was one of the highest ranking units that I've seen when we were talking about overall consistent clears. And I definitely think that this is a #1 pick for most people's accounts, 1000%. Going to number 8 here, we have Close. The reason why I want to talk about Close is because they actually included Close in the banner, right? So technically you could pull for her on the directed banner, but keep in mind that Close will be having her own limited banner on the release of the CBT, and more than likely also on the official launch. So that doesn't mean that you necessarily have to target her on the directed banner, because there will be a banner that is literally isolated for her. So it is entirely up to you on what you want to do with that, but Close is an absolutely insane unit. Now, what exactly does she do? Starting out with the skill 3, formatting is going to be a lot of things happening. Hacking progress is going to be the main thing that you're really getting out of this. So each stack increases damage taken by 6%, decreases damage dealt by an additional 12%, and decreases speed by 5% up to 3 stacks upon reaching 3 stacks. Close consumes all stacks at the end of her turn and is guaranteed to inflict the target with a 2-turn hack in. Now, what does hack in do? It cannot be afflicted with hacking progress, increases damage taken by 25%, decreases damage dealt by an additional 45%, and decreases speed by 20%. This debuff cannot be purified. So this is actually pretty annoying. Now, on top of that, she also offers a defense break. So basically, with the damage that she's able to do, it's 260 damage to all enemies, and there's a 100% chance to inflict the 2-turn defense break, and then there's a 100% chance to inflict 2 stacks of hacking progress on the main target. Now keep in mind, as this goes up, then it will turn into hack in, and once hack in takes effect, it becomes a completely nuisance ability. It is just absolutely annoying to deal with, and it is, again, really annoying to deal with Close because she has a really high base speed. So yeah, just kind of keep that in your mind when we're talking about, like, you know, speed rotators and units you might want to use as openers for PvP. But this does, again, still work for PvE as well. Now you also have then in the skill 2 tech upgrade, which is going to also still incorporate the hack in progress and the hack in. So she's able to further build up those stacks with these abilities. So she's able to deal another AoE, which is another 220% damage to all enemies with a 75% chance to inflict the hacking progress. And there's also an 80% chance to steal the target's strike prep and then redistribute it evenly among all allies. So for every stack of hack in progress, it increases the amount by 10%. With hacking, it's counting as 4 stacks. So that's something that is also making her extremely insane, is that she's then able to steal strike prep. So she's going to help you with rotating your own team and pushing back the other team in one skill, right? While still then building up the debuffs to still be a nuisance. Of course, with that, you then have the debuff in the skill 1, which is just going to be the hacking progress that she'll just be able to keep building up. So essentially she does a 2-hit 120% damage to a single target, and the final hit has a 80% chance to inflict hacking progress, which again is just going to get her closer to that point of making you deal less damage, take more damage, and not go as fast, right? So absolutely insane when we're talking about what value this character is able to give. I feel like there's some, you know, there's the strike prep movement, then you also have a lot of the debuffs, and those debuffs are just not only, you know, hurting them for the damage that they deal, but then they also make it to where they also receive more damage. So that's just, in my opinion, just really OP. So I gotta list her on here. Next up, we have Tiamat, right? I feel like Tiamat is an absolutely insane tank monster. I will say though, for me personally, when it comes down to Tiamat, I feel like this is a unit that the more you're able to invest into her, the better she gets. And it's because she needs high HP threshold. Like that HP is going to be huge to make her work. Now, I will say that is a stat value that's a lot easier to invest in versus like a lot of other different types of characters where you might need crit rate, crit damage, attack. She needs a lot of HP, right? Now, of course, with that, what does she do exactly? She is one of the very few, I think she might currently be the only unit that has a transformation mechanic, but with Eternity is going to be an AoE taunt. So what she's able to do is she is going to consume 30% of her current HP to deal 2 hits, and of that damage is equal to 10% of her max HP to all enemies, with a 60% chance to inflict a 1-turn taunt. Now, why exactly is this important? Because she is going to be essentially a meat shield. She's going to have all of this HP that she wants you to hit, right? Now, when you're looking at the skill 2, you will be able to give yourself a shield and a heal over time, which is going to kind of help her with the, consumption of her own HP, but then being able to restore that. Now, the thing is that she also will gain a unique buff called Bloodshed, which is going to allow her with each stack to increase the healing received by 4% up to 20 stacks, and that effect cannot be dispelled. She will give herself shield, which obviously absorbs a certain amount of damage, and then like I mentioned before, the heal over time is going to be based off of 15% of the max HP. So this again will apply to the entire party, to all allies. The shield is going to be equal to 120% of HP consumed. For every 1 stack of Bloodshed Tiamat has, the shield amount increases by 5%. Okay, so that's huge. That's absolutely huge. Keep in mind, she does also consume HP in this ability as well. So, just kind of keep that in mind. This is why you want her to have as much HP, defense, effect res, things of that nature as possible, because she is going to be taking away from herself, but she'll be gaining it back. But if somebody catches you in a weird window where you're in the moment of trying to restore, that's something you want to always be kind of aware of, right? Now, with the Thundering Spear, this is going to allow her to deal 2 hits of damage, and this is going to push her closer to proccing her ultimate form. Now, the thing about her building up this Bloodshed is that basically, for example here, we'll go ahead and read it, consuming 8% of her current HP with each hit and adding real damage equal to 100% of the consumed amount. Mother Evolution, she shares damage or 25% of the damage taken by other allies. For every 12% of max HP lost or healed, gains 1 stack of Bloodshed. When Bloodshed reaches 8 stacks, enters ultimate form, healing 30% of max HP and immediately gaining a turn. Now, let's talk about why this unit was one of my favorite units. Is because she goes to her ultimate form, she gets 1 skill, okay? She has 1 skill. And what does this 1 skill do? It is called Purge Day. So basically, Tiamat unleashes purifying flames to incinerate enemies, dealing damage to equal to 15% of her max HP to all enemies, adding an additional real damage equal to 13% of her current HP and recovering HP equal to 20% of the damage dealt. This skill does not generate cooldown. So she literally, as long as she is in this form, she infinitely could basically use this ability while she's in this form, right? There is no cooldown on it. It hits extremely hard. And this ability, like even in the last exhibition match, just completely clutch. This is a great ability for PvE as well. But again, I will give the forewarning that she is a full investment character. You really have to make her super tanky. You're going to want things like effect res because people are going to be trying to shut this unit down. In PvE, you don't have to worry about that so much, but in PvP, they're definitely going to see this unit and want to either ban her or they're going to shut her down, right? So just kind of keep that in mind, that if you are aiming for a character like this, which I feel is extremely valuable, those are some of the things that you're, going to have to consider. Coming in at number 6, we got to talk about the homie here, Hell Kid. All right, so Hell Kid is definitely a nightmare to deal with. He's definitely probably one of the most scary units in the game. I will say that this is a excellent unit for progression. Great in PvE, great in PvP, and this guy does a lot of work, right? Now, what exactly does he do? He has a unique ability, which is also just his ultimate in general, called Shroud Barrier. Now, what does Shroud Barrier do? Shroud Barrier is going to be not only giving shield, but it also does a AoE hit. This is a 3-hit, 110% damage to all enemies, and it applies Shroud Barrier, which is equal to 280% of his own attack to all allies. Now, why why is Shroud Barrier so insane? Because what it does is it not only absorbs damage, so this isn't just your regular shield, but it also grants immunity against all debuffs while it is on its duration, right? While it is up, it completely nullifies all debuffs, right? Now, the crazy thing is that keep in mind that this is a barrier that scales off of attack. So you can build him as a DPS, but still have tanking nature or defensive layering that's going to be coming out of his kit. And that's actually really insane for that overall coverage on your team comps. And this, again, like I said, works for PvE and PvP. Now, when you're looking at the second ability, Crystal Strike, this is going to have an attack down incorporated in it. And then it also will increase the damage that he has or that he deals when he has the Shroud Barrier on it. So it's a 240% damage to all enemies. And there's a 100% chance to inflict a 2-turn attack break. And then Hellkit's damage increases by an additional 65% when the Shroud Barrier is on. So it's it's just disgusting. And then on top of that, you also have the Shadow Briar. Now, the Shadow Briar is going to also allow you to do a couple of different things, whether or not you have the Shroud Barrier on. So it's going to deal 240% damage to a single enemy with a 50% chance to stun them. And then it also has a chance to buy 100% stun when he has the Shroud Barrier on. Now, the Shroud Barrier is basically going to also enable an ability called Impenetrable. When Hellkit has Shroud Barrier, 45% of the damage dealt is converted to Shroud Barrier. So it basically will continuously build the shield up. So this guy is just so disgusting. He's definitely going to help out accounts immensely. I will say that having a character like this is just going to be great in RTA. Definitely a unit I can see getting banned quite a bit for sure. But I definitely think that he's going to be a huge asset overall. And don't get me wrong, this guy, I might be hyping him up a lot, but there are some other Animus in this game that are just as hype worthy and are really good. But I just want to, kind of give him the love that he deserves, right? So that's basically that. Fifth unit, I have to mention Lily, okay? So Lily, we are starting to now look at one of our first dark units. This is a unit that you'll possibly maybe get lucky to get, but I will say for those that do get her, I just want to mention them just because, again, there are some extremely powerful units that not everybody might not have at the very beginning or if at all, but if you do get them, just know that they have a ton of value. So the Phantom Trickster Lily is also a very, very insane unit. She has a couple of different things that she's able to do. So she's going to deal some AoE damage, but as well as she has some cooldown reduction that she's also able to use, as well as giving some strike prep as well, which is that turn meter push. So basically what she does, she deals 260% damage with the Dream Trick to all enemies with a 65% chance to extend all cooldowns for the skills by 1 turn and immediately resets all skill cooldowns for allies with Twin Trick. This skill cannot have its cooldown reduced. Now, what exactly does Twin Trick do? Each time Lily takes an action, she gains 40% strike prep, and Lily can only apply this effect to one target apart from herself. This effect is removed upon Lily's demise. So basically what this enables is that essentially you can have her and another ally constantly being pushed forward, right? And that's something that is really annoying to have to deal with, because now you have to get rid of her, but then you also have to worry about the other target that's being pushed. That could be a damage dealer, that could be another turn meter pusher, it could be anybody, right? And so that's where that diversity kind of comes in with her, which makes her really, really unique. Now, you also have the Shadow Trick, which is going to be another ability that she's going to have that also applies that Twin Trick or plays into that. But Lily controls Rabbi and P2 and applies Twin Trick to the target ally, and then applies a 2-turn speed up to all allies. And if the target already has Twin Trick, instead applies 3 turns of crit damage and immediately starts the next turn. So again, we're talking about some additional buffs that you can give. She's not only going to give you more movement speed, but she's also going to then give a damage buff if you already have that twin trick applied, which more than likely she will already have it applied. So this is just something that is just kind of extra to add. Like, so for example, we mentioned Leon before. Think about how many different buffs you already are getting from this one character: speed up, crit damage. You have the Twin Trick. These are all separate buffs, and that's going to enable her, for example, to do or perform better, right? Then of course you have the Hat Trick. which is going to be another ability that's going to help further push, but also gain an assist. So she deals 240% damage to a single enemy with 50% chance to increase strike prep by 20% for herself and the ally with the lowest strike prep. Allies with Twin Trick have a 100% chance to assist. So again, she's an ultimate support. I will say she was able to perform in the exhibition match, and she did fairly well. She's going to be a great unit if you do get her for PvE as well. So again, as my 5th slotted unit, I gotta say this unit is going to be absolutely insane, and I would even argue just somewhat game changing for a lot of accounts, because she just enables and does so much to give your account more value. So that's basically Lily. Coming in at number 4, we cannot forget to mention the other boy, okay, the homie Rahu. Okay, Rahu went absolutely insane in the last exhibition match, and I will say that this is another character that's going to be a fairly progressive or easy unit to invest in and build up because of the scaling of this unit. So let's just jump right into what Rahu does. So Rahu's going to be unique because he has an ability called Flame Authority with a skill called Wrath. Now Wrath, with each stack, increases defense by 4% up to 12 stacks. This effect cannot be dispelled, and after other allies launch an attack, there's a 50% chance to assist them, consuming 1 stack of Wrath, and then upon reaching 4 stacks, the assist transfers 1 debuff from the ally to the target. Upon reaching 6 stacks, assist can consume 1 more stack of Wrath and transfer 1 additional debuff. Upon reaching 8 stacks, increases the basic skill's final damage by 1% for every 4% defense higher than the target, up to 30%. So with that, Flame Authority is essentially going to allow Rahu to first apply a 2-turn defense up to all allies while gaining 3 stacks of Wrath, then deals damage equal to 360% of his defense to all enemies. Now, the thing is that because he's going to have that 60% applied on top of the massive amounts of defense he's probably going to have, there's not really many characters that are going to have as much defense as him. So he's always going to be hitting hard, and yes, he can be utilized as a damage dealer. So he's going to be super tanky. He can clutch fights, and because of that, it's really unique because he's so tanky, but can still deal some insane damage. Now, with his passive ability, Wrathful Form, what exactly are you getting from this? In Rahu's hospitality extends far and wide. At the start of battle, he gains 3 stacks of Wrath. During the battle, for every 4 actions by ally Animuses, he gains 1 stack of Wrath. When ally Animuses don't use attack skills during their turn, he has a 60% chance to gain 1 stack of Wrath. So this makes it really nice to have a mixture of, supports in there or units that aren't necessarily using damage abilities, because this is going to be granting him more stacks, because keep in mind, he can do damage himself. So that again is just kind of like the mentality and just how you can kind of think about compiling or making team comps essentially. Now, when you're also looking at the skill 1 with this character, Flame Stream, you basically have it to where he is going to be dealing single target damage, but then also inflicting a defense break. So 320% of his damage to a single enemy with a 60% chance to inflict a defense break. Now, I will say that this is another target or character that's going to be absolutely insane because he offers utility to your entire party, but he's also so tanky, but that tankiness then is converted into like massive amounts of damage. So the dude can do a lot of work. I think a lot of people are going to like using him, and he's going to be a huge asset in progression. I definitely felt like he was worth mentioning coming in at number 4. This dude does a lot. Coming in at number 3, we have Linglow. Now, I felt like this was a unit I was gonna kind of mention later in the list here because of the fact that Linglow is a freebie unit that we get. She is a day 7 unit, but that doesn't mean that the value of her just diminishes. She is going to be definitely the replacement healer that most people will end up using. She's great, right? Now, what she ends up doing is that she has the ability to give an AoE heal as well as immunity. So this is our first immunity unit that we're talking about here outside of Hellkid with his shield. This is a heal with immunity. So Perfect Sound Wave is going to allow her to apply a 1-turn immunity on all allies, and she heals all allies 2 times for 14% of their max HP each time, and for each buff the target has, the healing effect increases by an additional 20% up to 45%. So this means that obviously she's going to operate much better on teams with a ton of buffs, because then her healing potency by default will go up. Keep in mind there's ways that you can gear her to also increase the healing potency or effect that she has, but this is just like for what the value of the skill is and maybe other units you'll put on the team with her. Now, you also have the Echo Symphony, which is going to first heal all allies for 16% of their max HP and extends all allies buffs by 1 turn. Target allies receive an additional heal for 20% of their max HP. Now, again, this is now a buff extender. So if you're looking at keeping those speed up buffs, the crit damage buff, the defense up buff, like she's going to help enable that, right? So those are already giving her like tons of checkoffs on the list for high value. And everybody's going to get this character for free, by the way, right? Now, we also have single target damage coming for her with a single heal with the Whirlpool. And then of course the Wells Prayer. So basically what she's able to do is 240% damage to a single enemy, heals 2 allies with the lowest HP percentage for 15% of their max HP. Rockstar, before each healing, has a 60% chance to purify 1 debuff from the target, and if the target has no debuffs, she then will grant them Well's Prayer for 2 turns, and Well Prayer is basically when the turn starts, recovers 5% of the max HP up to 5 stacks, right? So again, a ton of healing. She's probably one of the closest, like probably one of the first SSRs you're going to encounter that's just pure healing, right? Like pure healing, immunity coverage, buff extensions. She gives you that value. So again, really high-end valuable character. So definitely thought she was worth mentioning. Coming in at number 2, we gotta talk about Veronica. Veronica is one of the new Animus that is going to be coming into the game, this beta specifically, but she ended up knocking some people out of the list because what she does is so huge for progression. I just couldn't overlook it. Now, here's the thing. This is the value that she's going to actually give, right? So if we're looking at the Spirit Circle, this is going to be giving you a couple of different things that's going to help you out, right? So Veronica deals 420% damage to a single target, steals all buffs from them, and then spreads all the buffs to allies and applies 1 turn of Soul Ward. Now, this immediately landed her on the list because Soul Ward is going to make it to where HP will not fall below 1 point. So that means you are basically unkillable. Huge ability to have in a game like this. That's an absolutely huge ability. Now, of course, with that, keep in mind that can be stripped. I will say, just kind of, you know, for those that's thinking about counters, that can be stripped, but it is still really nice when you're talking about that PvE content, that like extra sustain to kind of help you out. That can really be a huge thing, especially even in autoing early on, just to allow you to get through the content that you're trying to get through. Now, you also have Soul Bloom, which is going to be another ability that I just couldn't pass up, because what it does is it removes HP from all enemies equal to 20% of Veronica's max HP, then applies a 2-turn shield of the same amount to all allies. So the thing about this ability is when we're talking about HP based abilities, these tend to be some of the best abilities that you can have when you're talking about just higher tier or higher stage progression. In late, like in more competitive PvP, that's going to be great because people are going to have more HP thresholds and more things stacked up to make their units bulkier. So having a unit that can just take a percentage is going to be nice, right? And so with that immediately skyrockets her value, and then it kind of puts her in a similar pedestal like with Lilith somewhat, like because that's a lot of what Lilith does, is she does a lot of damage based off of HP and off of her opponent's HP. This is a little bit different though because you are getting more of that shield value, but just kind of to paint that picture. Now, of course, with the skill 1, you then have it to where she's able to deal 240% damage to a single enemy with a 40% chance to inflict a 2-turn attack break. Now, the Thorn Break is going to be one of her unique abilities. When Veronica is attacked, she has a increase to her strike prep by 35%, and it can be triggered 1 time per turn. So that makes it to where she's able to rotate much quicker. Keep in mind too, the reason why strike prep and rotating is so important is because the more that you can rotate, the more that you can cool down your abilities. And so that's going to be a huge asset to her, right? So I felt like she definitely deserved to be on this list. And I will, again, have some honorable mentions, but I felt like she had to be in the actual core list. Number 1 spot. Again, keep in mind, guys, none of this has been any specific order, but I will say I gotta mention him because I don't think there's anybody that can like nuke the way this guy can nuke. It's Hinrich, okay? Hinrich, and this is another one very similarly to Lily. If you're lucky enough to get a character like this, I will say, and actually this spot is shared between him and another character, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because they both are light and dark characters, but they both are so insane, okay? Hinrich damage is just bananas, right? Hinrich can nuke basically anything that stands in front of him. He's great, but he also doesn't just nuke, but he has a couple of other things, right? So inevitable fate. So basically when he is hitting his 3 hits of 100% damage to all enemies, with the final hit having a 65% chance to inflict a 2-turn block. Now with every 1 stack of last words on the target increases the skill damage the skill's crit damage by 30%. Now keep in mind, block is going to make it to where targets cannot gain buffs, and last words increases crit damage taken and the chance of being crit by 7%, and it stacks up to 4 times. So it actually makes it very easy for it to hit the highest multipliers and being able to crit and just nuke things, right? So he's absolutely insane for wave clearing, just getting rid of stuff. Now, of course, with that, you also have the skill 2, which is a fatal split bullet, where he is going to deal 180% damage to a single enemy, and then 180 damage to a random enemy, and finally 180 damage to all enemies. And if the target has no buff that can be dispelled, there's a 65% chance to inflict a 2-turn anti-heal. So this guy just has he just gets to wreak havoc. Like, I don't know, like, this is kind of insane to just be able to do, but he can do it, right? Now, of course, with that, you also have the skill 1, which is the farewell shot, where you can deal 240% damage to a single enemy with a 45% chance to inflict a 1-turn block. Reaper's Gaze is going to be one of his unique things that he has. So each time Hinrich attacks, he has a 50% chance to dispel 1 buff from the target. And if the target has no dispellable buffs, he has a 80% chance to inflict 1 stack of last words lasting for 3 turns. Okay, so dude is a damage monster, but he can shut down opponents, making them not be able to buff, making it to where they're taking more crit damage. There's more of a chance to crit them. Like, he's just absolutely insane, and that can really work against like effect res builds and things of that nature. So dude is just really good. But like I mentioned, I feel like personally he shares a spot with another unit, and I could not go not doing this video not mentioning this unit. It's going to be Doki Doki, okay? Doki Doki is insane. I saved her for last because I feel like if you get this unit, you just win. She's just absolutely insane. What does she do? Temporal Leap. So she has a couple of different abilities that make her work. So backup is going to be before another ally Animus affected by a debuff takes action, consumes 1 stack to purify all debuffs from the unit, and applies 1 stack of data stream, and then backup stacks up to 6 times and cannot be dispelled. But what is data stream? Data stream is each stack increases damage dealt by 2.5% and speed by 2.5 points up to 12 stack. This effect cannot be dispelled. Now, this makes data stream one of the singular abilities in the entire game that is going to not only increase damage, but also speed outside of a speed buff, etc., right? So this ability is absolutely bananas. Now, on top of that, when you're actually looking at the skill itself, she manipulates data flux to increase 1 ally Animus strike prep by 15% 8 times consecutively, each time targeting at other allies with the lowest strike prep, and applies 1 stack of data stream on them, and then applies 5 stacks of backup to herself. So she's going to be doing this with her team, basically just moving everybody essentially. And then because she gives herself that backup, it's going to allow her to be able to purify debuffs off of her allies efficiently. Like, it's kind of insane when you see it work. Now, when you're looking at the skill 2, full overwrite, she basically has it to where she's going to reduce 1 ally Animus' skill cooldown by 1 turn, and 5 times consecutively, each time targeting a different ally with the highest total skill cooldown, and applies 1 stack of data stream to them, right? So that, again, the data stream is going to be giving you more damage dealt and then increasing their speed. So they're going to progressively be like, and that's what makes her bad, is the longer you're in a fight with her, the more speed that you're going to be, or the faster the opponents you're going up against are going to become, right? Now, you also have the pseudocode, where this is going to allow her to deal 260% damage to a single enemy, and then she gains 1 stack of backup on herself. So Doki Doki is one of the ultimate supports in the game, I will say. And I felt like I wanted to mention some of those units because they are insane for progression. They absolutely are. Not everybody's going to have these units, but I will say if you do get lucky, just know that they are extremely valuable. We're not going to stretch this out any longer. That is going to be my top 10 SSR Animus for progression. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I hope you guys are enjoying the closed beta. I can't wait for the official release. Hope to see a lot of your faces at some of the live streams or just on the videos. Let me know how you guys are feeling. Let me know what you've rolled or gotten in your account, or just come through the Discord to come hang, chill, and just say hello. But either way, guys, everyone, stay blessed. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, not only to here on the YouTube channel, but also on the twitch.tv/Zoxaskun. Again, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Stay blessed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.